Hello and welcome to Always Bored Never Boring. This is not the video I planned to publish today. I seem to be saying that quite a lot at the moment. In fact, not only is this not a video I planned to publish, it is not a video I expected to make. But once again, Games Workshop have decided to release more, yes more, new rules for Warhammer Quest Cursed City. And this comes hot on the heels of issue 497 of White Dwarf magazine, where we got new Cursed City adversaries and the first half of a new side quest that will be concluded in issue 498. But this time, we aren't getting new quests or adversaries, and the rules aren't being published in White Dwarf. This time we are getting new hero cards and new empowerments for use with the new Saviours of Cinderfall miniatures, and the rules are being made available for free on the Warhammer community website. This is actually better than getting new rules in a physical format like White Dwarf, partly because there is no additional cost for them, but mainly because Games Workshop have not been presenting the rules in White Dwarf in a particularly useful format. They have been publishing adversary and hero cards inside the magazine pages back to back, making it necessary to scan each page, then print them out to create your own cards. At least with a PDF on the Warhammer community page, you can print straight from the computer and save a few steps. But what are we getting here anyway? The most important thing to be aware of is these rules are intended for use with the Saviours of Cinderfall box set, which comprises 5 heroes and yet another Gryph-hound. It goes up for pre-order on Saturday the 9th of March 2024, and it's going to set you back £45 in the UK, $75 in the US or €60, unless you plan on making standees or using proxies of course. Despite the fact there are 5 heroes plus a companion in the box set, we are only getting rules for 4 heroes. The remaining miniatures are still used, but the characters they represent manifest in the game in slightly unusual ways. Our first hero is the thief Lissa Rena. She has a great grappling hook ability that lets her teleport to any empty space on the same board tile, which doesn't sound like much until you consider it can get you across a room filled with enemies, which can be especially important in deliverance missions. She also has a master thief ability that lets her search with a built-in chance to avoid a crisis. Having a safety net like this when searching can be really useful, because those crises do have a habit of popping up at the worst possible time. She gains inspiration whenever she finishes a move in a different board tile that does not contain other heroes, which means she should inspire incredibly quickly, maybe even on her first turn. And inspiring for her is worthwhile because it increases her accuracy and damage output, and also gives her a new skill that will let her re-roll her first failed agility roll each turn. Overall, I like this character. She is fast and slippery, and designed for low risk searches that won't disrupt your plans. Not the most powerful hero, but an interesting one with skills that reflect the ability to move through the world without leaving any trace you were even there. I really like it when there is a strong connection between a hero's skills and their personality, and even if you didn't know Lissa was a thief, I think you would be able to tell just from the way she operates. Next is Hanover Toll, a very cool looking witch hunter. He is actually very similar to Jelson Darroch, my favourite character from Cursed City. He has a pistol which is less accurate and less powerful than Jelson's rifle, but he also has an azurite blade which has better damage output than Jelson's sword, and rather than firewood stakes that can only be used as a free follow-up attack, Toll has stakes he can use at any time but only in melee. The stakes only do 1 damage as standard, but 5 on a crit, and if he uses his best tool for the job ability, he increases the damage on his firewood stakes by 2 against any enemy, or doubles it if he rolls a critical hit against a champion. That means he could be doing as much as 10 points of damage per attack. He gains inspiration for slaying enemies on his board tile, and after inspiring, his right tool for the job ability changes from requiring an activation dice with a value of 6 to an activation dice with a value of 1, meaning he can effectively do it every turn and he becomes an absolute monster. He also gains the Get It Done ability, which he can use once per turn without spending an activation dice. Each other visible hero can then immediately re-roll an activation dice. This is a solid support ability that helps to ensure his friends have the dice values they need to perform their actions. Overall, a really powerful character, a true monster killer with access to ranged and melee attacks plus decent support abilities. He can more consistently apply large amounts of damage than Jelson can, and he inspires more easily. I think he fires Jelson from the team, which is a bit sad, but the good news is Jelson is a really good proxy model to use for Toll if you want to give him a test run. Next is Mistress Ventia, the Weaver of Whispers. She has a cane gun for making 1 ranged attack per turn using an activation dice with a value of 6, and a perfectly balanced sabre which is a very weak melee attack. She has a pretty good support ability called Armed with Knowledge though. At the end of any other hero's activation, Ventia can give that hero a reaction dice with the same value as one of her activation dice, but she must then set that activation dice on her own character sheet to 1. She also has a network of spies which she can use once per turn in the initiative step. It lets her manipulate the initiative order on the combat track, swapping places with a monster so that the monster moves up the track while she moves down, in exchange for increasing the value of one of her activation dice by 1 for each card that was on the track between her and the monster she swapped places with. This does make it easier for her to use her cane gun, but feels a little weak. It's almost always better to activate before the monsters. Each time she gives a hero a reaction dice with a value of 6, she gains an inspiration point. And that is very annoying, because every 6 she gives away is a 6 she could have been using to fire her cane gun. But once inspired, she can use her gun twice per turn using activation dice with a value of 3 or more instead. She also gains the new ability Information Trade. When she uses a destiny dice, instead of discarding it, she re-rolls it and adds it back to the available destiny dice, and it appears the dice still goes back into the available pool even if it matches the value of any other dice already in the pool. Unfortunately, Ventia cannot use this ability if she is the last hero in the turn to activate, and that means she should be careful when she employs her Network of Spies ability to ensure there is still a hero who will activate after she does. And because you can only use a maximum of 2 destiny dice unless you are the last hero to activate, she will only be able to use this ability twice per turn. Even so, that's still a lot of extra dice being made available to the team. So it's a very good ability, although I think still probably not good enough, as overall she seems pretty underwhelming. The final hero is Armand Callis. He has a brace of pistols that he can fire twice per turn and an azurite blade. He has the ability Soldier's Instinct, which I really like because it gives you more control over the initiative track. When he attempts a gambit, he gets to add a d8 to his agility characteristic for the roll. He will need this ability often, as the only time he gains an inspiration point is if he holds the first space on the initiative track after a gambit step. If he uses his pistols against an adjacent target, the damage is +3, so that could be as much as 6 damage on a crit. It's a shame Armand is difficult to inspire, because once he does inspire, crits from his pistols start causing 4 wounds, or 7 wounds with the Grit and Gunpowder ability, and he gains the Rapid Reload ability that lets him make 2 free attacks with his flintlock pistols even if he has already fired them twice this turn. That means he could be putting out 4 shots per turn, with each shot doing 7 damage. That is going to make mincemeat of hordes of enemies. And that's it for our heroes, but we do also get 2 extra cards that are sort of weird. One card lets the hero summon the character Valius, but there doesn't appear to be any rules for how you acquire this card. My assumption is, if you use a team that contains only the members of the Saviours of Cinderfall, then you automatically gain access to Valius as well. The Valius card says that any hero can use the card once per journey. They spend 4 available destiny dice, and Valius beams onto an empty space on any board tile that doesn't contain any monsters with a wounds value of 6 or more. He then instantly kills any enemies on that board tile, and will kill any other enemies with a wounds value of 5 or less as soon as they enter that board. At the end of the turn, he leaves. I really don't know why this card exists. I guess the designers wanted to give players an excuse to use the Valius miniature, and Valius was too powerful to make into a regular hero. But there is no downside to deploying Valius. It's just a really powerful nuke with no real cost besides the destiny dice, so it doesn't feel in any way balanced. Finally, we have a new empowerment card, but it's a special empowerment, so it isn't going to be attached to a character in a weapon or armor slot, and it doesn't have a cost. Instead, you automatically gain the empowerment if your team contains only members of the Saviours of Cinderfall. All heroes gain the Sniff Out Evil ability, which requires an activation dice with a value of 4 or more. When you use this ability, you place the Gryph-hound on the Discovery deck. The next time anyone would draw from that deck, they draw 3 cards, keep 1 and place the other 2 on the bottom of the deck. The Gryph-hound is then removed from play until someone else plays Sniff Out Evil. It's a nice thematic ability, but it does feel a little bit like a weak justification for including the Gryph-hound miniature in your games. But there we have it, that's our new rules. They are all available for download for free as a PDF on the Warhammer community page, along with some free rules for using these same characters in Warcry. There's a link for you in the video description. I would say the rules are a bit of a mixed bag. Callis and Toll both look quite interesting, although Toll is probably a bit too much like Jelson, just more powerful. Ventia seems weak, and her support abilities are probably going to make her slightly less interesting to play. The standout for me is Lissa. She seems really well designed and has a strong narrative baked into her abilities. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.